Intro to Microsoft Office Word. Microsoft Office Word 2016 is a word processing application that allows you to create a variety of documents, including letters, resumes, and more. In this lesson, you'll learn how to navigate the Word interface and become familiar with some of its most important features, such as the ribbon, quick access toolbar, and backstage view. Word 2016 is similar to the previous versions of Word, namely 2013 and 2010. If you have previously used either version, then Word 2016 should feel familiar. But if you're new to Word or have had more experience with the older versions, you should first take the time to become familiar with the 2016 interface. Word can be used to type up notes, create resumes and type letters, and even make simple flyers and advertising material. But Microsoft Publisher is better suited for that task. It also has some advanced features like citation and mail merge. To get started, click on the Windows button down the bottom left hand corner of your screen, scroll down the list and click on Word 2016. I actually have mine pinned to the start bar here. I actually have mine pinned to the taskbar down here. I'll give that a click. When Word opens, you might get one of a few different interfaces. This one is showing my recent documents, as well as asking me if I want to open up a new one. It's having some problems with the templates right now, possibly because I'm not signed into my Microsoft Office account. So I'm just going to open up a blank document for now, which is what I wanted to do anyway. Here we have two windows side by side. Try not to get too confused. The one we're going to be focusing on is on the right hand side. This is Microsoft Word. On the left hand side here, we have a different program which I'll be talking about later on. This is a free alternative to Microsoft Office Word called WPS. The features inside of Word that I wanted to talk about are the quick access toolbar, which is along the top of the screen here. This section of the screen allows you to pin things that you use often. So for example, if you want to print and preview and you do that quite a lot, perhaps spelling and grammar might be a good one. If I click the little arrow here, we can add as many of these as we'd like into here. These are some of the most common ones. You can click more commands to find a whole lot more. We're not going to go into that for now. A good one to add is the spelling and grammar. You can turn these on or off by simply going back in and either ticking them or unticking them. The next part I wanted to illustrate is the ribbon. The ribbon runs across the top of the screen here, and it includes the tabs along here and all of the working area here. We can see that if we click on different tabs on the ribbon, it changes the contents of what's below it. If you ever get lost and you see things that you don't understand, I always say that it's a good way to remember is to just go home. Up next is the command group. The command groups are listed at the bottom of each of these areas underneath the tab. So for example, in the Home tab, we have Clipboard, Font, Paragraph, Styles, and Editing. If the ruler is not shown by default, as you can see it on my one, we can go to the View tab and turn the ruler on or off. One of the main things that I use the ruler for is quickly being able to change the margins. I can click and drag to increase or decrease the amount of margins at the top or the side. These ones are a little bit harder to use because they also include indents, but if you get your cursor in just the right place with the two-headed arrow, you can do it that way as well. The Tell Me feature up here in the top right hand corner is a really useful way if you can't find a particular command. If you wanted to make text bold, for example, if I type bold in here, then the option pops up here. Your Microsoft account, as mentioned before, I'm not currently signed in. I might do a separate video on that because it's a bit of a different topic. It is definitely not required by normal standards. However, if you are working for an organization, they may require you to sign in so that your account's linked into, for example, Microsoft Outlook or OneDrive, which is Microsoft's online storage system. The document pane is the major area that you're working on. It's designed to look a bit like a sheet of paper. At the moment, it's in portrait style, which is that you have the short end on the top and the long side down the bottom, as you would with a portrait painting. If you were to liken Word to a typewriter, then this would be your piece of paper that you're going to put in. On the side here we have the scroll bar. I can click and drag this bar up and down to move up and down the document. You can also use the scroll wheel on the mouse to move up and down as well. It's a bit boring at the moment because we don't have anything on the page. Down the bottom right hand corner of the page we have various document views. By default we have the print layout. This is showing you how it would look when you print it. Other options include the read mode, which gives you a nice wide screen. I find this one actually difficult to use because it tends to fold pages over. And we have web layout, which makes it very, very wide. I'm actually going to zoom out using the controls here, which is also the next item on our list. If I zoom out a bit, we can actually go really, really far. This is actually really handy if you have a table that's gone a bit out of control and you can't see where it ends. Switching over to the web layout view can help you find the edges of that. I've now switched over to having Microsoft Word in what would be called full screen mode. So we only have Microsoft Word open at the moment. Now, you might be thinking that your Word looks a bit different to mine, because mine's sort of got this dark grey appearance. This is something that actually you can set on yours as well, and it's something that I actually do recommend everyone does. If you go to the File tab up here, the whole screen will change, but not to worry. This is opening up what is called the Backstage view. In here we have options such as Save and Save As, which we will be covering later, Print, Share, Export, Close, Account, and for us, the one we're looking at is Options, the last one on the list. When you click on Options, it opens up this little window here. In the first tab that's already selected, which is General, if you have a look over here, you can see underneath the Office theme, there's a few different options. By default, Colorful is on, and if I click OK on that one, this is probably the one that you would be more familiar with. I find, however, this does cause quite a bit of eye strain, and I'm much more used to going into File, Options, under General, changing the Office theme to dark grey, which I find is much more gentle on the eyes. If you change it here while in Microsoft Word, whenever you load any of the other Microsoft Office products that supports this dark mode, then you will have the same effect there. This is also particularly useful in Publisher, where you have a lot of space around what you're working on, and having this mode set allows you to see if anything is going sort of out of bounds. So just to review quickly, in Microsoft Word we have the quick access toolbar. We have quick access to some things if we want them. We have our tabs along the top here, and clicking on each tab changes the ribbon, which is technically the whole area, although most people just call this part the ribbon. Either one is correct. Let's not get too fussy about that. We have the command groups in each tab. So for example, in the Home tab, we have Clipboard, Font, Paragraph. Clicking on these does not do anything. However, there is a tiny little icon right there in the corner of each of these groups, which will allow you to get more information about each one of these. So for example, if I click on this one here for Font, it opens up a new window which gives you a different way to control the way the font is working. I very rarely open this up, and I find that I can do most of what I need from here, but it's always good to have options. We're going to do an activity now, and I would like you to play along at home. We're going to type one of my favorite sentences, which is, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Does anyone know why that might be my favorite sentence? The answer is that it has every letter in the alphabet in it. It's not the only sentence that has all the letters, but it's definitely the one that sticks in my mind. This makes it also useful for practicing your touch typing, because you'll have to press every letter on the keyboard to type it. What I would like you to do is type it as I have done as well. When you reach the end of a line, press the Enter key on the keyboard to move down to a new line, and type it again. I'm going to type it one more time here, but this time watch what I'm going to do. There we go. So this time I've put in a couple of deliberate spelling mistakes. You can see though that the word quack has not been listed as a spelling mistake, neither is boon nor fix, but apparently jampus is a spelling mistake. I can tell because it's underlined in red, and the word doog is also underlined in red. Apparently these words here and even da are considered not spelling mistakes because they're obviously in the dictionary. If I right mouse click on one of my spelling mistakes, it gives me some options. Jumps is right for that one. As you can have with this one. D-O-O-G, D-O-O-R, D-O-O-G-S. I don't want any of those, so I'm going to have to click back and just fix it up myself. It's important not to always rely on the spell checker. Always proofreading and maybe even getting someone else to read will help you fix up mistakes in your writing. We're now going to practice some of the tools available to us in Word to change the way that our text looks. To do so, first we want to select a line of text. As in with many computer things, there are always multiple ways to do something. I'm going to select this second line here by putting my cursor at the end of the line, holding down left mouse click and dragging to the left. While I'm doing this, I'm not letting go of the left mouse click. When I get to the end of the line, I'm going to let go of the mouse. So I held down the cursor from one end by using the left mouse click, holding it down, dragging it, and then letting it go. From the font command group, I'm going to select a few different options. I'm going to click on bold. I'm going to click the little drop down arrow here, where we will be able to access all the different fonts or the way that the text looks from up here. I'm going to pick something that looks a bit different. And I can also do things like change the color. What about green? That looks nice. When I'm done, I can click somewhere else, and you'll notice that only the text that I had highlighted has changed. If, for example, I wanted to change the word brown in this sentence, I put my cursor here, drag across to the start. Now that word is selected. Let's make it brown. Another way to select lines that's really interesting is if I move my cursor over to the start of the line and sort of go beyond the line here, sort of imaginary line created by the margins up here. If I put my cursor here, you'll see it changes to an arrow. If I left mouse click here once, I will select the whole line. This is a handy way to select multiple lines as well. You can click and drag up here, but I'm just going to click just once maybe on this line, and I'm going to make it all italic. Spend a few moments now making your text look fantastic. So, when is a good time to save your work? Is it after you've got your entire essay typed in, or perhaps before you've even typed the first letter of your new document? For me personally, I often forget to do it straight away. However, that is probably the best practice. Microsoft Word and the other products in the Microsoft Office suite do have fairly robust autosave features. So even if the power was to go out right now on me and I haven't saved this document, there's a good chance that Word would be able to recover for me. To make it easier though, we should save our work as soon as we start. We can do this by going up to File and selecting Save. We can select somewhere on this computer. I usually go to Browse, and then I would recommend that you use one of the built-in folders created by Microsoft, for example Documents, and you can see by default it'll grab the first line of text and try and call it that. That's fine. You know what though, I'm going to add also my name in it as well, and I'm going to click Save. We can now see at the top of the screen that it has the name, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, -paul.docx. docx is the file type, and we'll be talking about them later on. There are two ways to open your files again. The first way is to know what program you use to create the files in, and use that program to open the files. To do this, we can go. We can have Word open and click on File, and under Open. Sometimes it'll be there as under one of your recent ones. If not, then we would need to go to Browse, On the documents, we need to look for the file. Mine's currently sorted by date modified, so it's going to be near the top. I've got a lot of files in here. And click open. I'm just going to close that one. The other way would be to, I've got a few ones open there. The other way would be to click on the icon for File Explorer down here, navigate to where the file is stored, and then double click on it from there. This one's a good one if you don't know what program you created the file in. There it is, double click on it. And for me, by default, it actually doesn't open in Microsoft Word. It opens in WPS instead. You can also actually right-click on a file and tell it where to open. See, I've got a few different programs here. Some of them I'm testing out. Now we're open back in Word 2016. The final thing we're going to be covering today is using the copy, cut, and paste commands. These are three very useful shortcuts, and have a look through the document as well, because there's some nice illustrations in there which will help you to remember how these ones work. I'm going to start with copy, and I'm going to be using the screen line for example. I'm going to use a different technique this time for selecting my line. I'm going to put my cursor to the start of the line, hold down left click and drag it to the end. And let go. We're going to be doing copy first. I'm going to hold down the control key on the keyboard. While holding it, I'm going to press the C key just once. Now, nothing seems to have happened, which is one of the most confusing things in all of computing history. You're used to pressing a button and then having it do something. When we do Control C, it copies that text to the clipboard. A little behind the scenes trick is you can actually come up here and see in the clipboard up here that there actually is something copied into there. But we usually don't show that to people, so I'm going to just close that again. I'm then going to move to a new place in my document. I'm going to do so by going to the end here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And I'm going to press enter a few times just to make some space. Now that I'm in my new point here, I'm going to hold down the control key, and this time I'm going to press V to paste. We can see that I've made a copy of the original. The original piece of text remained there, and I've now made a duplicate down here, all with the same color, the same font, and everything else. If I hold down Control and press V again, we can make multiple copies. I can, while holding Control, continue to press V multiple times. I'm just going to remove these ones. We're now going to look at the cut command. First of all, it starts off the same way as copying. I need to highlight a line. This time I'm going to click on the end here. This time I'm going to hold down the Control key and press X for cut. That line is now removed from its original position. I haven't deleted it. It's now sitting in the clipboard. I can actually open that just to show you that it's also in there. Once again, I'm going to come to the end of my existing text here, press enter a few times, hold down the Control key and press V to paste again. Refer back to the document. I'm going to put the picture on the screen here at the moment to a little illustration that kind of highlights the difference between copy and cut. Note that you do one of them first and then you do paste at the end. As a bonus, we're now going to look at also copying an image from the internet and pasting it into our document. Today I'm going to be using Brave as my browser. So the first step to getting an image from the internet would be to open up your browser of choice. And then using a search engine of choice. I like using DuckDuckGo as a search engine. You might be using Google. It doesn't really matter which one you're using. And I'm going to type in nature images. You can type in anything you like. You could perhaps type in your favorite football team, a particular type of dog that you like, anything at all. Now we get a few images here. We also get some search results, some other things. I'm going to click on the images tab here. There we go. Now we see lots of different images. Now, an important thing to note is that these images here are much smaller versions of their original ones. If it was to try and load everything in its original resolution, your computer would not handle it too well, and neither would your internet. I'm going to pick one like, this one's quite nice. I'm going to left click on it just once. We now see this image in its original size. The next step is to right mouse click on this image and select copy image. Now there's a few different options here to be aware of. You have save image as, which is an option if you want to download the image for use later on. Save image address will give you a link to the image, which is not actually what we're after. We want copy image. Now depending on your browser, it might be just copy. So have a look there, and if you're having trouble, let me know. I'm going to left mouse click once on copy image. Once again, when we copy something, it seems that nothing happens. Very confusing. I'm going to go back to Word, which is still in my taskbar, and I can either do Control V, the paste shortcut that we've already used, or I can also right mouse click and select paste here as well. Let's give that a try. There we go. Beautiful. Now as an extra bonus, there is a page which I might need to add in about resizing images. It's an incredibly useful trick where we can click on an image and we have handles, these little circles that appear all the way around the image. Each one of these does a different thing. The one at each of the corners does the same thing, which is my favorite one, which is changing the size but keeping the ratio. So if I click this and drag it down, it keeps it the same size. If I grab one from the side here, either the right or the left, and I drag it, it's going to stretch the image. Very rarely will this actually be useful. As you can see, it's kind of distorted the image. I'm going to use one of my favorite shortcuts here. You can do it as a keyboard, or you can click the little button up here to undo the last thing that you did. That shortcut is holding down the Control key and Z on the keyboard as well. That's the undo. Same as with the ones on the side, you can also grab it from either the top or the bottom and drag it down. Once again, it stretches it out unpleasantly. It's going to undo that one. And finally, there's an extra one up the top here. Can you guess what that one does? It rotates. That can create some rather dynamic looking pictures. Maybe a little bit less rotate. I can just click it and drag it back a bit, like that. The other thing that's really useful to know about images is that you have options for how they're going to be placed on the page. By default, they will be in line with text. If I actually click and drag this image up here a bit, it sort of puts it around the text, or the text around it. Other options include square, which can be really useful for making posters and things. You can see as I drag it, it tries to fix the text up. Other options are tight, which is like square, but it puts things really close to the picture. We have through, which should put the picture, no, I thought it put it through the text. Interesting. I always get that one wrong, I think. Top and bottom, which forces it to have text either on top or the bottom. This is good if you don't want to have things beside it. We have behind the text, which can be used to create some interesting effects, as you can probably imagine. And what's the last one? In front of text. I don't know why you quite want that, but it's there as an option. That one, if the picture is irregular. Because this is like a big rectangle, it doesn't work, but if your picture was perhaps a shape, you can see in that little picture that it would go into little bits and pieces as well. The one that I use the most is probably square or tight. I like having images on the side of things like that and then having some text that explains it. That's one of my favorite ones to do.